A taxi passenger tapped the driver on the shoulder to ask him a question. The driver screamed, lost control of the car, nearly hit a bus, went up on the footpath, and stopped inches from shop window. For a second, everything was quiet in the cab. Then the driver said, "Look, mate, don't ever do that again. You scared the living daylights out of me." The passenger apologized and said, "I didn't realize that a little tap would scare you so much." The driver replied, "Sorry, it's not really your fault. Today is my first day as a cab driver. I've been driving a funeral van for the last 25 years. A man walks into a rough biker bar and sits down quietly. A huge biker at the counter slams his fist down and yells at the bartender, "Bring me a bottle of whiskey, you useless be **starred. The bartender rushes over and serves him immediately. A minute later, the biker shouts, "And some wings. Move your ass." The bartender practically sprints to the kitchen. The man watches this and thinks, "Wow, that's how you get service around here." So he stands up and yells, "Hey, give me a beer, you lazy prick." The entire bar goes silent. The bartender calmly reaches under the counter and pulls out a baseball bat. The man immediately starts sweating. "Wait, why does he get served and I get a bat?" The bartender points at the biker and says, "Because that's Mike." "Who's Mike?" The bartender shrugs. "The owner." Three friends married women from different parts of the country. The first man married a woman from the north. He told her that she was to do the dishes and house cleaning. It took a couple of days, but on the third day, he came home to see a clean house and dishes washed and put away. The second man married a woman from the west. He gave his wife orders that she was to do all the cleaning, dishes, and cooking. The first day, he didn't see any results, but the next day, he saw it was better. By the third day, he saw his house was clean, the dishes were done, and there was a huge dinner on the table. The third man married a girl from Louisiana. He ordered her to keep the house cleaned, dishes washed, lawn mowed, laundry washed, and hot meals on the table for every meal. He said the first day, he didn't see anything. The second day, he didn't see anything, but by the third day, some of the swelling had gone down, and he could see a little out of his left eye, and his arm was healed enough that he could fix himself a sandwich and load the dishwasher. He still has some difficulty when he pees. A wife demanded a cure for her husband's explosive temper. The doctor's water trick was pure genius that a woman went to see her family doctor, looking utterly exhausted and deeply worried about her husband's increasingly erratic behavior. The doctor pulled up a chair and asked, "What seems to be the problem, ma'am?" The woman sighed, wringing her hands. "Doctor, I honestly don't know what to do anymore. Every single day, my husband completely loses his temper over absolutely nothing. It's starting to terrify me, and the tension in the house is unbearable." The doctor smiled gently and nodded. "Don't worry, I have a foolproof medical cure for exactly that. The next time you feel your husband's anger starting to boil over, I want you to take a large glass of water, pour a mouthful, and just start swishing it around. Swish and swish, but whatever you do not swallow it until he either completely calms down or leaves the room." 2 weeks later, the woman bounced back into the clinic looking completely refreshed, radiant, and reborn. "Doctor, that was an absolute stroke of genius," she cheered. "Every single time my husband started to fly off the handle, I immediately ran to the sink and swished with the water. I swished, and like absolute magic, he calmed right down within minutes. Please tell me, how on earth does a simple glass of water have that kind of medical power?" The doctor leaned back in his chair, smiled, and said, "The water itself does absolutely nothing, ma'am. It's the fact that it keeps your mouth completely shut that does the trick." A gynecologist waits on his last patient, who does not arrive. After an hour, he makes a gin and tonic to relax. After he settles into an armchair to read the newspaper, he hears the doorbell ring. It's the patient, who arrives all embarrassed and apologizes for the delay. "It doesn't matter," answers the doctor. "Look, I was having a gin and tonic while waiting. Do you want one to help you relax?" "I accept, thanks," she answers. He gives her a drink, sits down in front of her, and they start talking. Suddenly, someone is heard opening the entrance office door. The doctor looks worried, gets up, and says, "My wife. Quick, take off your clothes and spread your legs. Otherwise, she might think there is some nonsense going on." Thomas is 32 years old, and he is still single. One day a friend asked, "Why aren't you married? Can't you find a woman who will be a good wife?" Thomas replied, "Actually, I've found many women I wanted to marry, but when I bring them home to meet my parents, my mother doesn't like them." His friend thinks for a moment and says, "I've got the perfect solution. Just find a girl who's just like your mother." A few months later, they meet again, and his friend says, "Did you find the perfect girl? Did your mother like her?" With a frown on his face, Thomas answers, "Yes, I found the perfect girl. She was just like my mother." "You were right. My mother liked her very much." The friend said, "Then what's the problem?" Thomas replied, "My father doesn't like her." A man walks into a bar with an octopus under his arm. He slams his hand on the counter and yells, "I bet anyone $50 they can't bring me a musical instrument this fucking octopus can't play." People in the bar look around, muttering to themselves like, "What is this talking about?" Finally, someone steps up and brings an acoustic guitar. The octopus looks at the guitar, tests the strings, tunes it up, and begins rocking a perfect country song. Next, somebody brings out a trumpet. The octopus looks at it, adjusts the keys, licks its lips, and begins blowing a mind-blowing jazz solo. Everyone is staring like, "What the hell?" The bartender's been watching this whole thing, feeling competitive. He goes out back, and after a few minutes, comes back with a dusty set of bagpipes. He slams them on the counter and says, "I bet you $100 this 8-legged asshole can't play this." The octopus takes the bagpipes and just stares at them. It turns them over, looks at them from another angle, and just keeps inspecting them from top to bottom. The owner is getting impatient. "Quit screwing around. Just start playing." The octopus looks up with a completely serious face and says, "Play? If I can just figure out how to take her pajamas off, I'm going to fuck her." A man is convinced his wife is going deaf, but she won't admit it. So he decides to test his theory once and for all. While she's standing at the sink, he stands about 6 steps behind her and says, "What's for dinner, dear?" When there's no answer, he steps a few steps closer and repeats the question. Again, there's no response, so he moves right to his wife's shoulder and asks, "What's for dinner, dear?" At this, his wife turns around angrily and says, "For the 3rd time, sausages."